Hello, this is Barrett from the C4 Cyber Club here at Cypress College. In this video today, we're going to cover the Ethical Hacking Lab series for client-side exploitations. So, keep in mind there's always a client side and then there's server side. So we're going to be looking at attacks that are specifically targeting the host, or in this case, somebody, a victim machine visiting a website that is running the BeEF framework in the background. So this BeEF stands for Browser Exploitation Framework. And if you remember the lab that we did with, let's see, there's the logo there. If you remember the lab that we did with Social Engineering Toolkit, it kind of has similarities there. This is obviously will be used for credential harvesting, capturing keystrokes, mouse clicks, and also potentially delivering malicious payloads and injections through JavaScript, essentially. Because this is working through a website or a web app, I should say, it is using JavaScript in malicious ways. So it's essentially creating a go-to site that is run by the malicious attacker. And because of that, there's all kinds of JavaScript vulnerabilities happening. And they are able to take a lot of control behind your host on the client side, remember, as you're connected to that site. So let's go ahead and hop right on into it. Better to do it, right, than to just keep talking about it. So we'll be using both the Kali machine and the OpenSUSE machine. You may want to just go ahead and log into both of them at the start of the lab. That's kind of what I did. So the OpenSUSE password is osboxes.org. The Kali login is root and TOOR, but that's up to you. Okay, so once you are in the Kali machine, we can launch BeEF from the terminal and just type BeEF. So you can see it's starting a container running within Docker. So we've kind of touched on this in other labs as well. Docker containers are essentially out of scope for this class, but essentially what that's doing, it's pulling only what's necessary to run this web app and all of the necessary dependencies. So think of it as a lightweight form of virtualization. Okay. So this is something that I notice. If you get this unable to connect right away, just go ahead and refresh. That happened to me before. So go ahead and refresh that, and then you should have the login page here. So the username is BeEF, and the password is password. Not a very secure malicious attacker, are they? Okay, so remember, we're on the Kali machine, so we're on the attacker side, and this is the BeEF console or control panel. And over here on the left side, you notice we have these two areas: online browsers, offline browsers, and this is within the overall hooked browsers. So this is essentially what we're doing. We're hooking browsers that visit our site. And then once they are connected, we can do all sorts of things, which you'll see. And as you can see, we already have some tabs here. We have logs and we have zombies, which essentially that's what we're doing. We're creating almost like a botnet or zombies of multiple browser hooks. Okay. So what we need to do is actually open the site on the victim machine. So this is where we'll go over to OpenSUSE. I'm going to launch Firefox there. And we will enter in the Kali, essentially this URL right here. And obviously in the real world, an attacker would probably try to mask this and give it some sort of clever host name to try and trick somebody into thinking it was something more legitimate. And it could be anything. It could be a website designed for, typing in the wrong area. It could be a website designed as like a storefront for something. maybe something that's really popular right now, and oh look, they have super cheap prices, so I want to try shopping here. But what you don't know is that it's running BeEF framework in the background. Okay, so we have now visited the malicious site. And obviously, because this is very tutorial based, it's telling you, okay, you should be hooked into BeEF. Have fun while your browser is working against you. Okay. Now, if we go back to Kali, you notice that we now have an online browser and it is hooked. So at the 192.168.9.2 machine, which is our Kali machine, we have hooked 192.168.9.1, which is actually this side of the PF sense. So it would that was from the OpenSUSE, excuse me, connecting through there. So that is why this is the IP that is showing here. So once we're here, we can click on the box and we get a bunch of details. We see things like browser name. We can get browser version details. What is the width and height of the browser? So a lot of information right off the bat. OS version. Okay, we know it's Linux 64-bit. So lots of things happening already. And let's see, the lab is directing us to check out the logs. So you can see 192.168.9.1 just joined the horde of zombies, right? Come back online. Browser window has regained focus. So that means that okay, the browser is in focus on their screen. If I, whoops, wrong tab. If I start a new tab there, for example, and if we refresh, go back to the logs, we see browser window has lost focus. So you can see how detailed this gets. It literally becomes an audit log of the person's browsing habits, keystrokes, mouse clicks. You see a mouse click right there. So you get the idea. Now let's go back to the OpenSUSE, and I'm going to close this new tab, and let's type something secret in here. Something secret. Now we haven't submitted anything. We just simply typed into that entry field. But if we go back to Kali, refresh, go back to logs, we can start to see those keystrokes being logged. So there's something secrets that I just typed. Okay, so we've captured some keystrokes and mouse clicks, checked to see if the browser's in focus, things like that. Now let's move on to the next section where we're actually going to take a look at these commands and what type of modules that we can also load up based on what type of browser is running on the other end. So if you're currently looking at the logs, just go ahead and hit refresh. And you notice that it brings this menu back up because we're going to want to click on commands here. And you see we have all these different options under the module tree. So the first area we want to look at is under browser. And this is all related to browser detection. So we could detect MIME types, see what kind of headers they look at. Is it secure? Detect LastPass, detect extensions, all of these different things. And something important to note is that, so the green here means that these commands can be used, very good chance that they'll work. If you see an orange, this means that these commands might work, they may not work. It's hard to say. And then if it's red, these most likely are not compatible. Okay. So let's go ahead and select one of these. We are looking for detect toolbars. And once it loads up, it gives you a quick description. detects which browser toolbars are installed. We can execute. And then we see it gives us a overview here, a command 1. And then we see here no toolbars detected. So not a whole lot happening there. Let's see if we can fingerprint the browser, get a little bit more information. So this module attempts to fingerprint the browser type and version using URI protected handlers unique to Safari, Internet Explorer, and Mozilla Firefox. So based on different types of responses and how it handles requests, it's able to determine which type of browser it is. So let's go ahead and execute. We'll take a look at this here. Took a moment to load. We see it is Firefox and a very specific version. All right, and now let's take a look. We're gonna close out of browser and let's take a look in the social engineering section. So you see we have a lot of different options here. A lot of these are orange, meaning we're not sure if they'll work. Text to voice would be a funny one. You could potentially send them a very ominous message through the browser. So we're going to take a look at fake notification bar here. And so we'll select Firefox, and don't forget you could always increase this column a little bit so you can see. So Firefox, let's go ahead and execute that. Command 1. Okay, so we see result, notification has been displayed. So if we go back to the OpenSUSE, so this is where you could potentially place a malicious payload inside of here. So in this lab, don't click on install plugin, but this is a very good example of, you visit the site, maybe you've been using it for a moment, it seems legit, right? Remember we talked earlier, it's a shopping site, it has really cheap prices on this hot new item that you want. And then all of a sudden you get this pop-up. It's like, oh, hey, you need to install this plugin to finalize your order or something, right? So, but then when you press install, it's actually installing a really nasty backend piece of malware on your system or something like that, okay? Now so I'm gonna X out of that for now. Whoops, here I go. I shouldn't even click that. I probably almost broke it. Okay, so we're back here. Let's see. How does that look over here? So if I refresh, go to logs. Okay, so you see here has executed instructions. So this is an example. I actually did click on where I shouldn't have, and I would have executed any malicious payload that was placed in there. And then I refresh and we see a browser refocus here. Okay, so let's move on. We need to go back to the OpenSUSE machine, and we're gonna look at a little bit more advanced form entry. So if we go to the advanced demo page, we have some very nice photos of some beef, but we want to go to order your beef hamper. Delicious, delicious hamper straight to your door, right? Sounds legit. I'm sure that's what we all want, right? So we basically just need to add this information into the fields here. So I'm just going to enter in some fictitious numbers. Okay. And press bye-bye. Bye-bye to your information, right? Okay, so it doesn't really give us any kind of confirmation. Man, this site is not that legit, right? You're starting to worry. What has happened to my information? We come back to Kali. We refresh. Check the logs. And so if we scroll down a bit, we see all of those keystrokes, all the way from Sally, the phone number, the address right there. And then this is where we started entering in the credit card number. But then also we have everything very conveniently put together right here. So you don't even need to kind of parse through these keystrokes here. You have all of the information right there in the form submission. So because we actually clicked submit, we sent basically a post request to the server, which is the malicious Kali machine, right? So they have that form submission. And that is pretty much it in a nutshell. So like I said, I'm sure you'll notice some similarities with Social Engineering Toolkit, but BeEF browser extension framework can be much nastier. And honestly, from an attacker's perspective, it's even easier because they have all of these options. Once you're loaded in, once you are a part of their zombie botnet, it's very easy to do some further digging into your system, figure out what you're running, what you're most susceptible to. And, I would recommend going through these commands, have fun with this lab, see what else works. See if you could try tab nabbing, see if you could try clickjacking, for example. All of these different things can definitely be fun to work with. So that concludes this lab, Ethical Hacking Lab Series, Lab 11, Client-Side Exploitations with Browser Exploitation Framework. Thanks a lot for watching. See you in the next one.